Welcome to Fam Church Online. My name is Claire, and I'm so glad that you're tuning in with us this morning. We would love to connect with you, and if we haven't had the chance to do so yet, please text WELCOME to the number that appears here at the bottom of the screen. We'll send a digital connection card to your phone. You can fill that out and send it back to us, and we'll send you a gift in the mail just for connecting with us. As always, we hope Pastor John's message really speaks to your heart this morning, and if you would love to connect with people in our community, you can do so down below in the comments.
Thanks, Fam Church, for staying so faithful in your giving. Remember, here at Fam Church, there are 4 ways that you can give. You can give through our app, you can give through our website, you can text your amount, or you can mail it via snail mail. However you decide to give, I want to thank you once again for staying faithful in your giving. It's helping us do ministry, and we're eternally grateful. Thank you. God bless.
I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. You unraveled me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to this week's broadcast. Hope you've had a great week. I don't know about you, man, but I'm ready for the heat to go away. It's been really hot today on the day that we're recording this. We're recording this on Thursday before you have a first chance of seeing it on Sunday. The day's been really, really warm. But, hey, it's August. I'm just saying, come on September and October so that we can get a little cooler and get outside and enjoy outside a lot more. But other than the heat, I really do hope that you're doing well, and I really appreciate you taking the time to check us out today. Over the last few weeks, we were in a sermon series entitled Church and Culture. And in the middle of that sermon series, I talked to you about that I felt like the Lord was kind of bringing us out from behind our stained glass windows to speak truth, okay, into the middle of our culture. And I felt like that maybe the Lord was even dragging some of us in Christian leadership, kicking and screaming into some of those areas where maybe the church has been a little apprehensive about speaking in the middle of those things. And so I tried to handle a lot of those topics. And there were a lot more that I could have handled and a lot more that I could have talked about. But I just felt that I was done there. And while in that, and I felt like, as I said, that the Lord was bringing us out as Christian leaders to address some of those issues, it got me to thinking about the prophets of old. You know, that's where they lived. I mean, these guys, that's what they did. They spoke truth in the middle of a culture that didn't really want to hear it. Now, a lot of times when we hear prophets or prophetic or the prophecy, most of the time what comes into a Christian's mind is the ability to foretell the future, okay? So it would be something along the lines of, thus saith the Lord, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. And so I'm not suggesting that that's not what can happen in prophecy, because I believe that it can. But what I'm trying to get through here today is to see what the Old Testament prophets spoke to their culture and to go back and research that and see when I look at that if there's anything that we can glean from that. So that's what I've done. So today we're going to start a brand new series on the prophets. And we're going to go through a bunch of them. But today, we're going to be talking specifically about Hosea. Hosea. Now, Hosea was not your average upper echelon guy. No, he wasn't a shepherd either. The Bible basically says that he was a manager of shepherds. So he wasn't necessarily, riffraff. And he certainly wasn't nobility. He was a middle-class guy whose responsibility it was to oversee shepherds. And so you can imagine a middle-class guy going about his average day, doing his average responsibilities, and the Lord comes to him and says, I got something I want you to do. Now, I want to brace you because some of the things that the Lord had Hosea to do, you really have to broaden your mind a little bit, and you really have to broaden your understanding of God some, because in our contemporary understandings of who Jesus is and who God is, what God asked Hosea to do just simply blows our mind. It really does. So I feel like there might be some anticipation building from your end saying, Pastor John, what in the world would the Lord have Hosea to do? Well, check this out. The Lord comes to Hosea, a middle-class guy with an average life, and he says, Hosea, this is the Lord, and I want you to go marry a prostitute. Now, I have to tell you, that's mind-numbing to me. Because we in the Christian church, if there's anything we put a premium on, it is relationships. It's husbands and wives. It's, that is sacrosanct. I mean, even Jesus and Paul, they talk about it, man, that the relationship between Christ and the church is reflective of a relationship between a husband and a wife. I mean, it is the most sacred bond you can find. And God is telling a middle-class guy, an average Joe in that culture, that he wants him to go and marry a prostitute. Why in the world would the Lord ask one of his prophets to go marry a prostitute? Well, the Lord wanted to speak a word to his people Israel. He had tried over and over again with multiple prophets, but the words of the prophets fell on deaf ears. The people just refused to hear. And so what God decided that he would do was that he would move just from language to illustration. You see, what God had always wanted, and what he wants for us, even in the New Testament, is a people that he can call his own. People that will come after him and want to be with him and will want to spend time with him in fellowship. God desires that out of his people. He wants us to be a peculiar people. He doesn't want us to be worldly. He doesn't want us to participate in the things of the world. He wants us to come out of the world and be clean. He wants us to be holy. He wanted the same thing for the ancient Israelites. And so when the ancient Israelites begin to forsake God and begin to go and pardon my French here, but it's the language that the Bible uses, whore after other gods, God took that to heart. He's like, spiritually, you're committing adultery with me. I called you out. I looked over the whole earth at all the people groups that there were over the whole earth, and I said, I want this group of people to be mine. I'm going to name them after myself. Come out from the rest of the nations. I'm going to make you peculiar, but through you the nations will be blessed. Come out from them. Be holy. Be mine. Be mine and mine alone. I'm a jealous God. I don't want you messing around with any other gods. Come out. Be mine. Mine only. And Israel, for whatever reason, just didn't do that. And God had tried. Boy, has he ever tried. Has he ever tried to talk to you? I know he's tried to talk to me. And God really tried. He really tried to get their attention. They just wouldn't listen. He sent them prophet after prophet. They wouldn't listen. So the Lord finally says, well, if they're not listening to the language, I'll move to the next step and I'll use illustrations. So he goes to Hosea, this guy who's just an average Joe, middle-class guy. And he says, I want you to go marry a prostitute. And I can imagine Hosea saying, you want me to do what? He says, yeah, I want you to go marry a prostitute, and I want you to have kids with her. Okay, Lord, you know what a prostitute does, right? And you want me to go marry her, okay, have her here, have children with her, knowing full well what she does, which means, God, that when I take her to be my own, and she has children, and after she gives birth, Lord, you know she's going to leave me and go back out in the world and begin to have other relationships with other men. Lord, you know that, don't you? And the Lord's like, yeah, that's exactly why I want you to marry her. I want you to marry her, and I want you to have kids with her as an illustration of what Israel is doing to me spiritually. Now, you're going to be doing it physically, and there was a part of that was happening physically too. So, the Israelites, that's what they used to do. They used to worship Baal, and Baal was the god of water, and they had crops, and they had gardens, and they thought in their minds, well, if we're going to have water on our crops, and if we're going to have enough food to water if we're going to have enough water to water the crops, and in order to have enough food to feed ourselves, then we need to go and spur Baal on to excite him so that he'll give us the rain. And so what they used to do was they used to go have sexual relationships with temple prostitutes in order to please Baal, the pagan god, so that water would come and water their crops. So physically they were having relationships, but what really tugged on the heart of God was that they were having spiritual adultery. They were committing prostitution spiritually. And so Hosea left out. He found a prostitute. Her name was Gomer. Gomer. Now, what a name for a lady, right? Gomer. I mean, most people hear that, and the first thing that they think of is the Andy Griffith Show. Gomer. No, this is Gomer from the Old Testament, female prostitute. Hosea finds her, and he marries her. And lo and behold, she gets pregnant and she has a child, right? Now listen, she has a child. And do you know, according to verse 4, I'm in Hosea chapter 1. Hosea chapter 1, verse 2 talks about God telling Hosea to go find a prostitute as a wife. Verse 4 tells us that Gomer's pregnant and she has a child. It's a son, it's a boy. And the Lord instructs Hosea and Gomer to give him a name. You'll see the name there on the screen. It's a Jewish name. It's a Hebrew name. But the Hebrew name, listen, the meaning of that is, I will punish you. Now, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? That the name of your firstborn child is, I will punish you. Every time, can you imagine if that was your name? And every time your mom or your dad called you, that's what they said. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to punish you. If that was told to you every time you turned around, don't you believe that after a while you would develop a complex? I know I certainly would. And so it says, I'm going to punish you, I'm going to punish you, and I'm going to punish you. And this was the name that this son was given. And this was language that the Lord was using through this relationship between Hosea and Gomer to tell the people of Israel, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to punish you because you've been committing spiritual adultery. I want you for mine. I'm a jealous God, and I want you with me. And of course, we know what happens. If you know the story, as soon as Gomer gives birth to this number one son, she goes out, starts doing what prostitutes do. Hosea has to go buy her back, bring her back home. They have relations again. She gets pregnant again. This time she's pregnant with a daughter. And in verse 6 of Hosea chapter 1, that verse is on the screen now. In chapter 6, it's given a Jewish name. That Jewish name there, translated is, I will have compassion on you no longer. Now, can you imagine that being your name? I'm not going to have compassion on you. I refuse to have compassion. First, I'll punish you as a son, the daughter. I'm not going to have any compassion. Over and over again, that's what she said. And Hosea is speaking this out loud for everybody to hear. And of course, you can imagine the reaction from the people on the street. Why are you telling your son that you're going to punish him? Why are you telling your daughter that you're not going to have compassion? And of course, Hosea had to use that as a springboard and say, well, I'm a prophet of the Lord, and God told me to name these children this because in reality, God's going to punish you. God's not going to have any compassion towards you. Tough stuff. Then we go on to verse 9. Verse 9. Same thing happens. You got Gomer, she gives birth to the first boy. I'll punish you. She goes back out and starts doing what prostitutes do. She comes back. Gomer has to go get her. Hosea has to go get her, bring her back. She gets pregnant again, having a daughter this time. I'm not going to have compassion on you. She weans that child off, she goes again, you know. Hosea has to go find her again out on the streets, bring her back. This time she's pregnant with son number 2, third child, but son number 2. This here just boggles the mind. It's in verse 9. He names his son. You are not my people, and I'm not your God. Man, good gracious. That's brutal. So you can see God is at his wit's end here. He really is. He's at his wit's end, and he's been trying desperately to speak words to the Israelites, to the Hebrew people, that says, listen, I'm a jealous God. I looked the world over. I tried to find somebody that I thought would be mine. I thought it was you, and I've done everything for you. Brought you out of slavery, gave you this land flowing with milk and honey. You turn on me and desert me like this. And so he starts this process of naming these children in hopes that maybe somebody will listen. Is there words in that for us? Is there words in that for us? Is there something that we in 2020 can glean from something like that all that long ago? Yeah, I think so. Here's what I think that we can glean from that. The Lord is desperately trying to get me and you to come out from this mess of a culture that we're in and to make him number one in our lives again. God is using me and folks like me to speak that into you, to speak that into churches, both live and through video, both through a microphone here in this sanctuary and through digital means. God is desperately trying to get the church's attention. That's why all this stuff's going on. That's why all this culture is coming apart at the seams. God is trying to get your attention. He's trying to get my attention. And he's desperately trying to get you to come out from all of this madness and once again call him the Lord of your life and mean it. You see, the one thing that we can always depend on when it comes to God is grace and mercy. If we will forsake this madness that we have got ourselves into, the good Lord from heaven will hear and will forgive us. You see, he goes on in the next chapter, Hosea chapter 2, verses 18 through 20. And the word of the Lord is so clear and it's so beautiful. It says, in that day I will make a covenant with them, with the beasts of the field and with the birds of the sky and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will abolish the bow and the sword and the war from the land, and will make them lie down in safety. And I will betroth you to me. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness and justice, in loving kindness and in compassion. And I will betroth you to me in faithfulness. Then you will know that I'm the Lord. Friends and neighbors, that day's now. Jesus has come. God sent him for you and I, that there might be some reconciliation between a holy God and a sinful man. All the unraveling that's taken place in our society, all the shaking of the institutions that we thought that were pretty substantial and safe to put our hope and our trust and confidence in, all of them are falling apart. The only thing that we can do as believers is to trust Jesus. And I'm telling you, you know this to be true. If you put your hope and your faith and your confidence in Jesus Christ, it is the most safest, surest anchor that you can place your soul. Trust me in that. I believe in that with all of my heart. I wouldn't spend 30 minutes of your time telling you if I didn't believe it to be true. Come back to the Lord. Forsake all this madness. God is waiting for you. He wants to be your Lord, and he wants to be mine. Well, receive that word. I'll be praying for you. If you need me for anything, reach out to you. If you'd like for me to lock arms with you and agree with you in prayer that God will encourage you and empower you to come out of this madness and to once again make Him the Lord of your life, I'll be honored to do that. Reach out to me some way. I'll be praying for you. I really, really will. You be praying for me because I need it too, right? And together, as we hold each other up in prayer, God's going to come to our rescue with a grace and with a mercy so abundant it'll blow our minds. Count on it. Well, hey, love you in the Lord. You take care of yourself. Again, call us if you need us. So long.